Good afternoon. My name is Jessica Miller, and this is a video describing the instructional plan that I created for Dr. Greer's class. So my instructional plan was over using manipulatives to multiply single digits from 1 to 9. So the reason I decided to do this was because I have several students in my classes who are still working on lower level math. Even though I teach secondary aged students, I have several students who are still working on a very elementary kind of math, and a very small group who's still working on elementary school level, multiplying single digits, and an even smaller group of folks who have not reached the point where they can look at the problem and multiply. So I chose the manipulatives activity so that I could concentrate on providing an opportunity for them to learn the basics of multiplication here while they're at residential treatment, so that when they go back to their public school, they'll have a foundation for that. So for this activity, I'm using a small group of about 5 students who are at an elementary level in math and have not yet started to work on multiplication. And we're starting with 1 digit, and we'll be using math manipulatives. The first thing I'll do when I sit down with these students is explain to them what we're doing, what our goal is. So the goal for this is that students will use manipulatives to complete single digit multiplication problems from 1 to 9 with 90% accuracy by the end of the fall 2024 term. I do believe this is attainable for this particular group of students, considering we have all of next semester to work on that. So this is a group of 5 students. I have one in 7th grade, one in 9th grade, 2 in 8th grade, and another one in 7th grade. And all of them have IEPs that specify that they need to learn their multiplication tables while they're here at the residential facility. So that's our goal. Our objectives are to, number 1, the students are going to multiply by single digit numbers 1 through 9. And the second one is students are going to be able to model the multiplication problems using the manipulatives for single digit multiplication problems 1 through 9. The vocabulary that's included that I'll make sure to go over with the students are manipulatives. Manipulatives are small objects we can see, touch, and hold that help show us a picture of how the multiplication problems work in math. I tried to make sure that I dialed down my vocabulary so that my students could easily understand it. We'll be talking about the product, which is what we call the answer to our multiplication problems, and times, which is another word for multiply. And I have created an example of how that works so that the students can see it on a small scale to help them visualize that. For assessment for this, it's going to be a lot of formative assessment, because the easiest way for students in this environment who are dealing with a lot of mental health issues and emotional health issues is to keep the environment very relaxed and laid back. So it will be a lot of formative assessment as they're practicing. I'll be observing and taking note of how much they understand, how willing they are to participate, how much coaching that they still need, how many prompts they still need. And for a summative assessment, I will be using a multiplication board, a multiplication heroes board that I use for the rest of my class when they learn how to complete a 100 problem multiplication exam in under 3 minutes at 100% accuracy. So these students will have a multiplication heroes board, but their activity will be this instead of the more advanced activity. So when they have demonstrated that they can use the manipulatives to model the problem and come up with the correct quotient 90% of the time out of 6 times, then their names will go on the multiplication hero board, which is an award for them once they've accomplished it, and it also serves as a motivation for them while they're still working toward that. I will provide opportunities for the students to work in a number of different ways. They will be able to work using pencil and paper, as well as the manipulatives. They can also use the whiteboard and expo markers because some of them prefer that. And I also have a couple of students who have some fine and gross motor skill issues that it would make it easier for them to be able to do it digitally with an online program. So I have that opportunity too. All of the students are going to have the opportunity to do all of these, so nobody's singled out. The materials that we're going to need are obviously the manipulatives. Now in my plan, I plan to use rubber ducks because they're just fun and they engage the students more. I unfortunately don't have those at the moment, so we're going to be using erasers because I happen to have a lot of them. A pencil, a piece of paper, a whiteboard, the expo markers, and the laptop computer to facilitate all three styles of learning. For other personnel, in our classroom, it's just me and my QBHP, who is a qualified behavioral health professional. So in this activity, the goal would be for me to teach the activity to this small group while my QBHP works with the rest of my classroom on their multiplication facts, drilling, doing flashcards, practice tests, things of that nature. And then once I have taught the activity to the students, then we will trade off. I will do the summative assessment for the rest of my class, which is a timed exam for multiplication facts, while my QBHP helps my small group students practice the activity. And then once that's complete, once I've finished with the summative assessment for the rest of my class, I will return to the small group and start to observe how they're working with the manipulatives, how they're understanding the concept, how much prompting they need, those sorts of things. That is the instructional strategy that I'm using for this. And throughout this lesson, the most important thing to me has been to make sure that I have provided appropriate learning opportunities for all of my students that include the entire classroom to some degree, but also provide activities for students who have other needs that would make it more difficult for them to learn like the other students learn. I do believe that this is something that will come in handy in my class in the future, because as we receive new students in as new admissions, I always have to start at the very beginning. I will give them what I believe is their grade level math, and based on that, I'll understand whether we need to move forward or we need to move back. And I have never, up to this point, had to move all the way back to simple addition and subtraction, but I do have that handful of students who don't grasp the concept of multiplication yet. So having this activity in my toolbox is going to be really handy to be able to pull out and work with those students who haven't reached those more advanced multiplication skills yet. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next time.